Okay, here we go. And Kev joins us today. Kev is somebody who I've worked with a lot in the past. We've done a lot of similar sort of Facebook lives in the past, but this is the first time Kev's appeared on this podcast version on YouTube. And Kev, I wanted to get on because he's the perfect person to talk about this subject today. And I was saying before we got underway, he led a brilliant bonus session in my Pathway to Purpose group recently around this subject. And I really want to, share it with as many people as possible because this is the perfect time of year to talk about this. We talk about what we call conscious manifestation, but this might be a term that, a lot of people are familiar with, manifestation, but what does it actually mean? And how can we do it consciously? In other words, there may be some shifts that we want to happen in our lives, some changes that we want to see, something we want to create in the new year. As we come to the end of 2025, as we are now, stepping into the new year, a lot of people start thinking about New Year's resolutions. I mean, it's the classic thing, isn't it, at the start of the new year? But I did some research, and I think something like 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. So we all go into the new year with the best intentions, but for most people, they have fallen away and failed, if you want to use that term, it very quickly. So why is that? Why is it that we go into the new year with all these goals and we work hard and we always end up reverting back to our old patterns? How can we actually create a new version of our future, a new version of our reality as we go into the new year? What are the keys for doing that? So that's what we're going to talk around today. But first of all, Kev is someone, as I said, I worked with 2022. I think we worked for a year together, and he really helped me on my own journey of entrepreneurship, purpose-led entrepreneurship. And he's an executive coach, and I know he's been working for a number of years in this field. So, but I thought, first of all, Kev, welcome. What I thought would be great is to just go into a little bit around your story, like what are your own experiences, perhaps with the process of manifestation? Did you experience your own blocks in the past, and can you relate to that statistic around New Year's resolutions, perhaps, and what's taken you on this journey towards where you are today and the way you help people?
Oh man, I wish I had a whole nother podcast just on the background. I'll try to mercilessly brief, give you the overview and dive into those parts of where things shifted for myself, and I've also seen for clients. So a bit of background. Mark, thank you. Pleasure to be back on the podcast at 5:30 in the morning or 5:45. You Brits always get me up early.
I would be no good at 5:45 in the morning. I don't know how you do it, but somehow
excited to be here with you.
Yeah.
When I look at the background, as many people, I wasn't an instant success overnight and everything just worked out. I think the trials and tribulations help create negative impacts, and you realize something's not working and it sends you on a path. Now that could be in health, relationships, could be in career, it could be in whatever, right? But having those trials and tribulations helps send you on a path. So it sent me on a path of, something's not showing up. I want this thing, or I want an outcome. What's keeping me while I'm having some of the ingredients show up? And that looks like on paper what should make it show up. But what's the gap? Why is that result still not realized? Right. So that set me on a path. Now, in my journey, I've had more than one entrepreneurial endeavor. I've been in physical goods, services. I've been in software. I've been in consulting and coaching now for many years. More than one service business, by the way. Didn't instantly find success with some of those endeavors. Like I had a services business, professional cleaning, barely was getting by, total mess. Didn't know how to manage people, didn't know how to manage clients. Freaked out all the time that I'm going to lose the business overnight, right? Not a great success. Try to start a couple other things. Not finding any traction. And then something hits. I get around other people, co-founders, start a software. And that did well over time. I don't think that was me. I think I was, if anything, our anchor, and others that I was around were helping pull the bus. Now, I did bring some things to it, but I definitely see my own self-sabotage in some of that. Now, that eventually got to a level of 7 figures. Over time, we were able to exit. And then I went on into podcast marketing for a long time, and great business. I still had a lot of my shadows showing up, a lot of the things that were my own self-sabotaging effects. But that's where I really had a playground. And then over time from that business, which got into 7 figures as well, was able to get into consulting and coaching way back in 2015, 2016, somewhere in that time range. So now about 10 years. I've worked with folks that are 7, 8, 9 figure, more than one billionaire at this point. Very interesting to see people outside of my own, it's not just my own lived experience. And how do they consciously manifest or bring things into life? Now, what's fun about this is it's not all like when people use the word manifestation, it's not all fluffy and light and happy. You can create a result out of force and hate your life, even though you got the money.
Yes.
Or you could push in order for a result to show up. I would want the outcome and a great day-to-day state along with it. So how do we both move towards what we think is going to make us happy, peaceful, fulfilled, a success internally? Like, how do we move towards those outcomes while at the same time creating a state where I love my life? So to give you a little extra on this for myself of having, let's say, a next level in business. And next level, it's fun. Whenever you get to a level, you always want the next level, and you always want the next level, right? There isn't some arrival.
Yes.
It's not moving the goalposts and actually feeling that state of gratitude when you get into a state where you're like, wow, we're actually doing it. And then you realize it and you look back on the journey and cherish all the lessons and who you've become. With myself, with business, and I'm going to speak specifically around business right now. There's some other things I've created in health, some other things I've created in relationships, and those are all fun with next levels because they're more fulfilling in some ways. But with business, it's really easy to just focus on the numbers or a very specific setup. So let's say the right team or the perfect type of client that we're getting at, or the investor that we've been looking for. And that opens doorways. So if we have this ideal outcome, we could easily push it away with stress and chaos. And I got to claw at it to get it to show up. I may be consciously thinking about it all the time. Far better that I shortcut that path and have a great time along that path. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. It's how do I move towards those outcomes without killing myself, having a good time, and almost, I wouldn't say effortlessly, but with more flow, allowing them to show up in my life.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a little bit of background. So I do work with a lot of entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs, many of which have been pushing away some of those results that they want to see by their own doing, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. But we're going to talk about how to bring it from the unconscious to the conscious because we're already manifesting. Many of you already know the things in my life are a result at some point in how I've been at source on some of it, right? It's not all the external circumstances showing up. I play a role in that, but it's a co-creation. So that's a little background about myself.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Kev. It's that's really important to acknowledge, isn't it? It's like a coach told me once, we don't need to be taught how to manifest. I mean, we are manifesting machines as human beings. So if you look at your reality now, where you live, the work you're doing, the people that show up in your life, that is what you have manifested. And as you say, it's about taking responsibility for that process. Like, it's not about blaming the government, blaming your past relationships, blaming the external. It literally is, your reality is a reflection of your internal vibration or your internal energy, basically. And that is an exact match for what you're emitting energetically. So when you realize that, it gives you a lot of empowerment. Like, literally, if I change the output, the energetic output of what I'm putting out there, I will see a different reality. So that's really important. So you know, you don't need to know how to manifest. You are manifesting all the time. Everybody is manifesting their reality, but it's about learning. What we're talking about is learning how to take conscious control of that process, so that what you're seeing, the reality you're seeing, and everything in it, actually reflects what you'd like to see, like what you'd like to see, rather than what most people are doing is creating this reality that they're unhappy with. Also, something interesting you said there, which I like, which is, you know, this idea of, we'll go into this deeper as we talk, but this idea of, oh, okay, I've got this idea of my future reality that I want to create. This business, we're talking about business, for example, this career, and I'm working towards it, and I'm kind of, it's almost like sacrificing the present for this ideal future. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm working myself to the bone because I want this future reality. A lot of people I hear see this in when I was in my career as well. This idea of, oh, I'm just going to work for decades, and then I'm going to get to this point of retirement, and everything's going to be perfect. Everything's going to be beautiful. You know, when I'm 65 and I'm on the beach, you know. But what they realize eventually is, oh, I sacrificed the best years of my life, you know, when I was most alive and energetic, you know, for this future. And I've retired. I'm on the beach, and now I'm feeling unfulfilled because I'm not working, you know. And it's kind of like, you know, it's too late. Then you kind of lost your best years doing it. So it's always about, as you said, appreciating and enjoying the journey, the present. You can always be happy in the present. It's not about delaying your happiness to some imaginary future reality. It's about how can you be happy on that journey towards this ideal future realities that you'd like to create. So it is a balance, isn't it? You know, yes, we always want to create more in our lives. We can always be so much more. Our potential is unlimited. So yes, why not have these, you know, big goals for our lives, but also, can we also be happy in the present on that journey? So it is a difficult balance, isn't it, that I think a lot of high achievers struggle with.
Mm-hmm. I'll often meet somebody, they're, let's say, leader of a company. I'm thinking of someone in specific I'd met recent. You know, they're in the mid 8 figures. The team's kind of in chaos, a lot of drama with the executive team. They have a day-to-day state where they're frustrated.
Mm.
Wouldn't say they're checked out by any means, but it feels like they're pulling the wagon. Okay. And they want to go to a next level, ultimately in a position where they have options for exit. Right now they do, but not at the multiple that they would like. But in order to get there, it feels like I'm already pushing, I'm already tugging the boat. How do I tug them even farther? And from that state, that experience of frustration, and it's, you know, I got to do it all, or I got to be the one to really pump everybody up, or get people to see the light. Like they feel like they're pulling teeth. And what would it take to go to that next level? And I'm not saying this is the only state that someone could be in, but from that state, you could push or force your team, and it could pull them in a next direction. But who would that person become by that forcing and that pushing? Would that really create the end state, even if you got on the P&L? If you got the P&L to where you want it to be, are you going to be more exhausted, more frustrated? You know, yes, we've realized the result, but oh gosh, I would never want to keep it at this level. And I wouldn't, who would I have to be day to day in order to keep it at that space? And that can be that self-sabotage where I push it away of like, oh, what would it take? I'm feeling that heaviness. So one thing I like to start with is not would it just be possible for the end outcome. I like to put it into a different frame. Who would I get to become where it would be? More inflow, less chaos, friction, pulling. It's actually more effortless to go to that next level. Maybe I've been keeping it at the level I've been at because of what I'm harboring of my feelings about the current state, or what I perceive the outcome to feel like. And so when I feel into the conscious part of it, some of it is unconscious, but we're going to bring it to the conscious right now. If you're thinking of a next level, let's say add a 0, right? And that could be number of team members. It could be number of clients or customers. It could be add a zero on the P&L. If that's not going to stretch you enough, put 2 zeros behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a level, if I keep adding zeros, where you feel that tension, where you're like, oh, but yeah, but what would that take? And we're thinking more effort, more energy, more output, and it's going to be exhausting, or it's going to be stressful, or it's going to be insert whatever contracted state. And that is the highlighter of where my limitations are that may be keeping not just the result from showing up, but it's keeping me from manifesting, which is that fun, nebulous word. But let's flip the word manifestation into creation, into me, almost like the artist, like painting such picture. It's keeping me from not just an ideal outcome from a realized tangible result, but who I would be in that picture and what it would feel like for that to have been created. Now, I'm going to share a picture. Are you okay, let me share screen on this? You've seen this before. I've shared this a million times. I always share this. Let me just... Here we go. Are you able to see this image on screen?
Yes, here it is. Okay. The Old Faithful know this image well.
Mark's seen this a million times. I share this all the time because it's one of those easy tangibles instead of going through a variety of slides. And this one image, which I've taken from the book Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. In the book, he talks about these different states of experience. We have expanded states on the right-hand side, top right, and we have contracted states on the lower right. Those two different buckets feel night and day. Now, if I look on the right-hand side, it just looks like two buckets, but on the left-hand side, we get more depth. So on the right or on the left-hand side here, it's just a range of emotions from the heaviest all the way up to the lightest. And we've all experienced a variety of these all in between. I may not be up in enlightenment, sitting on my little, my little cloud as I go through my day, nor would I want to put into your mind that you are only ever to be up here and stay here. I think that's a setup for failure. Instead, this is just a range of emotion that humans go through. And it's part of that human experience. I've talked to people at all levels, in health and in relationships and in business. And funny enough, people that have a high result still experience all these different ranges. We don't escape the human experience. So if I have $1 billion, could I still have frustration or anger here in the 100s? Abso-freaking-lutely. With more success or more results, often in that can be more responsibility and stewardship, and that can create stress and pressure. Okay. When I look at this, though, this is a map of highlighting what I'm perceiving on a conscious level, just based on my day-to-day emotions. When I marry it to a result I want to move towards, let's say 2026, I want a next level. It is time for me to change this around. I think that's a really fun thing to get to when you want the change and maybe there's an impact being highlighted. Like, I'm fed up. I'm sick of it. I've had it. That's, get excited in some ways because that is a highlighter that there's an impact. But if I use that only ever as the state that drives me, what would that journey feel like to get the result? I'm going to be pushing away from a contracted state. Now, the reason I bring this up is right here in desire at 125. Many of us have experienced desire. I want this next level, whatever that is. Let's say I want to add a zero to the bottom line, or 2 zeros, or whatever it is. That desire, if I'm feeling into it, I want it. It's not here. Why isn't it here yet? We need to go there. Well, that's a contracted state. So as I push from that state, or what the author calls force, that's a contracted state, and it's going to feel somewhere in between getting by and suffering. And so I'm setting myself up, if that's the place that I stay at, going for that result. I'm consciously manifesting, looking for the evidence of why it's going to feel like just getting by, or why it's just going to feel like suffering. Let alone have I even envisioned what I think the outcome is going to feel like and who I would become. Subconsciously, this is why I'm bringing up the difference between the two. Subconsciously, we may push it away because we may feel, as from the start, if we feel like it's going to be getting by or suffering somewhere in this range, well, what's it going to be like to not just go through the journey, but get there and stay there? I'm filing in my already subconscious mind what I think it's going to be like in the future, just based on recency bias. Recency bias, a cognitive effect in psychology, is what we felt most recently, or what we've experienced most recently, we predict into our not too distant future. So if day by day I've been wanting it and desiring it, or I'm frustrated here in the 150s, I'm sick of it, we got to change this, I'm already expecting tomorrow to be a push. I'm already expecting tomorrow to be a force. I got to tugboat my way there. Now, many a result has been created by that. I just don't know if that's what you want to create from, and what you want to experience more of as you go that path. Far better if I even lowered the result, but came at it from a higher, more expanded state. Now, you might push back and argue, if I didn't add a 0 and I only added half of that, well, I wouldn't be satisfied. I wouldn't be happy. That's already setting my trap up. I'm already down here in this expectation being not enough, that I'd be frustrated or disappointed by such result. So the flip is when, and I do this a lot with executives, we don't go right into the how-to. Let's start from a grounded state. Open playing field. You can create a result that you want. It's, what is that feeling of want? Is it coming from desire? Is it coming from this 125 stage? Or am I going to start from a different vibration? Let's just say we come up into a slightly expanded state, something like in that 310 to 250 range, where I'm between willingness and neutrality. Like, I'd be willing to see what that possibility is. What if I'd be willing to see if adding a 0 could be easier, lighter, more expanded than staying where I've been? Let's tune it up even more into expansion. What if I came up into reasoning? Yeah, well, going in that direction, well, it might add some things, might actually add less, because we'd have to systematize, get more into that day-to-day process and systems thinking to create less chaos and more flow, maybe more people. And that can already be a trap for some, because you think more people, oh, that's more drama or more chaos in that. But what if it was with a layer of not just management or leadership, but others around you that are operating at a higher level? What if going after a segment of the market, or expanding the segment of the market that we're meeting, is actually something that would create more goodwill, more shared recommendations? People that love your service or your product so much that they can't help but share it with somebody else. And I become, from, let's say, reason into love, that I love the impact. I love what we're creating, both for the market, the people that we serve, as well as our team members and who we take care of. So I like to start with, what if the possibility of going a next level in 26 could actually feel somewhere in this expanded range, where I could be in the level of, let's say, the 300s, where I'm in willingness and acceptance. Like, that would be not just a great outcome, but I would become a version of myself that I'd be grateful. And I'm willing to see who I'd become in that. Now, gratitude, while not listed on this chart, one of the highest vibrations that's up here in that high 500 range. Like that, if we're up here in between peace and joy, that would be an amazing state. I'd be so grateful to come from where I'm at to where I get to become, not for just the result itself, but who I would be and what it would feel like to serve at a next level. I use that word service or serve intentionally. A phrase I often use with like a CEO who's stressed and there's a lot going on. They're a little anxious or nervous about the path they're walking. They often say, especially in higher levels, like only the paranoid survive. I like to go from nervous to service. Like, where would I get to serve? Because it flips it from contracted to expanded. Now, I like to say you can have and create anything you want. You can't have and create everything you want. So getting very defined on what that ideal outcome, as well as who I get to become for that to be a reality. I don't think they talk about that enough. The Secret kind of missed the boat on some of this. If you ever read or watched the documentary The Secret, or as they talk about with manifestation, they talk about picturing an outcome or so detailed, but they don't go enough into the identity of who I would become for that to be a possibility. I feel like it's a shortcoming. For something new, I might need to evolve into something next. And far better if I not just think of who I'd become, but attach a vibration, a frequency, a feeling around the ideal. Because I wouldn't want to think, well, I'd have to become this and then feel contracted about it and push it away, or force it to show up and hate my life. I've had many people that create a next result, frustrated or disappointed or moving the goalpost, thinking, well, then if I go climb that second mountain, then I'll feel something. It's like all the answers are within, and I could start creating from here now. So I like to start from gratitude for who I've been and where I've been at and what's led me to here. It's okay to feel contracted. That creates the impulse for change. I like to say nothing changes until the impact becomes great enough. But with that, never waste the pain. That highlighter of a negative impact is a wake-up call. It's like, hey, I'm here, or I've been here. Not what I'm looking for. Thank you for that. I appreciate that wake-up call. Then I can shift from that negative or contracted state and move up into even just acceptance and willingness of like, okay, time to keep climbing. So I'll stop screen sharing here, come back to the main screen. That is something I keep in my mind because we want outcomes thinking that will make me feel something. Because then I will be happy, fulfilled, grateful. Met too many. So I'm not the only experiment. I've seen enough outside myself where as I keep wanting more and more and more, actually I was just in that lower contracted state of desire, oftentimes moving towards it, getting frustrated. And then even if I realized that result, I didn't get the feeling I was looking for. And often it was connected to identity because I didn't feel like it was enough, not just for the day-to-day, but my own experience of who I thought about myself. So this is an exciting conversation because maybe this is the first time, if not the second time, this is good. If this is not new to you, but if it is new to you, it's a good reminder to keep this in front of you. It's like, who am I perceiving myself in the now? What do I feel that outcome that I'm wanting would allow me to become? And what feeling, what emotional state, and we could talk about it being just as on that range of vibration, a frequency, and what is the ideal that I'd want attached to that. So I know I threw a lot at you. Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this so far.
Yeah, it got me thinking a lot actually. That extra zero on revenue, and I suddenly, because there was a post today that Stephen Bartlett wrote, who does Diary of a
Mm.
CEO today, and he talked about the reality of entrepreneurship. He was talking about all these late nights and the stress and the responsibility. He's got multiple businesses and he's on a TV show, and he was really honest about the whole thing. But he says, this is what works for me, and when he talked about putting that extra zero on, I noticed some contraction within me, which was like, oh, do I want all of that? And this is why, one of the practices that I always encourage in my program, which is this writing about your ideal day, like get clear early on, like what is it that you actually want your life to look like, not attaching to a certain revenue target or a team size, like, or for example, a promotion, right? Whatever it might be. What exactly do you want the ideal day to look like? And just take away um, the metrics, the numerical side of it. I want $1 million, or I want to be a billionaire, or whatever. It's just like, okay, that won't necessarily make you any happier than you are now. Like you said, you reach the target. Okay, I've got, for example, a 6-figure business. Or a 7-figure business, and it's like you have this momentary moment where it's like relief, the cessation of the desire, the lack. I'm like, I've made it. And then what happens, of course, is that fades, and you're left again with this sense of lack or craving. We were talking about this desire,
I'm
and of course,
laughing
then
over
it's
here
like,
because not just me, but most people don't even realize till they look at their P&L. Oh, I've already made it. Like they look on paper
yeah,
like, oh, shoot, we're already there. Funny how I was so busy working or so stressed out with team or clients, and they're so overwhelmed or stressed or that they haven't even realized they met the goal
mm,
because they're so focused on that new responsibility as you brought in. Like it works
mm,
for Steven because it holds him in a container to rise to that, to expand into that next level. But it is pressure. I'm not going to say that it's effortless for Steven, right? That pressure doesn't necessarily have to eat him alive. You think of pressure, it creates diamonds. There's something beautiful that can come out of it. And so while it can be a tug of war internally sometimes, it's like, oh, why did I ask for all of this? It's also a mixed blessing because now it's a container that allows him to either contract, push it all away, or fully commit and step into it. A phrase I like to use is 100% in is a breeze. 99% or below is a real pain. 100% in, a breeze. 99% or below is a pain. And that is related to responsibility, ownership. Am I all in on this? Or is there 1% or even more of me that wishes it was some other way? With my toe sticking out the back door, someone's still forcing it shut, and that it's going to feel like resistance the whole way if I'm not all in. So careful what you wish for. Am I willing to meet it?
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's why I like that ideal day writing. It's like, for me, what I established when I did my ideal day back in 2020, I think it was, living in a small little masonette in a place called Langley outside of London. And we were all crammed in there as a family. We had a young daughter, and I was working in advertising and just generally felt quite stuck and lost. I was encouraged to write about my ideal day. And I just took the handbrake off and just talked about, wrote about how I felt in the morning, waking up. We were in the countryside in this big house. I had my own office with my spiritual art on the wall, and I was coaching, helping people align with their purpose, and seemed quite fanciful then. But what I realized, it was about just generating the feelings. Like you said, you don't have to wait to the future to experience feelings of freedom and abundance and connection and whatever it might be for you that you're kind of seeking in that external target. You can actually generate those feelings now in the present moment. That's the thing. You don't have to wait until 10 years in the future when you've created this amazing business. Like, you can literally, if you write about your ideal day, for example, and then you can actually visualize, step into that reality in your imagination. You can be there now. And this is the key. What I discovered about conscious manifestation is it is about, if you can generate those feelings in the present, and that's one way to do it, is to visualize yourself in that reality now and just feel visualize yourself walking around the house that you're in, the work that you're doing. For me, it was about, going for a walk in the countryside at lunchtime and then spending time with my family in the evening, generating those feelings of connection, as say alignment now. And basically, the way I see manifestation working is the way you feel is your point of attraction. So the more of those kind of feelings that you're generating, like we said at the start, you generate your reality. So whatever emotions, energy you're emitting, your external reality will change to meet it. So if you're always kind of emitting the energy of lack and desperation and stress and overwhelm, then your reality will reflect that. But if you can generate those feelings that are opposite to that, aligned, inspired, free, abundant, then your external reality will over time change to match that. And that's the kind of way that I've done it over the last 6 years. There are still things that I'd love to bring into my life, expand the business. I'd love to move us out more into the countryside, etc. But again, the other side of that is not attaching too much to the outcome. It's it doesn't have to look like exactly like I wrote in my journal. It's like, okay, I just generate those feelings and let the universe decide exactly what's best for me, based on that reality. Now, what I've realized since, that probably living out in the middle of nowhere in the countryside is not probably the best when I've got a young daughter. It's probably best for us to be a bit more connected, to everyone and everything. And so, yeah, just kind of realizing that, okay, generate those feelings, let the universe decide exactly what that means for your life. What's the best for your life experience? The other thing I like you said about there is The Secret, which a lot of people have seen on the self-development journey. And I got the impression I got from that is, you just kind of put your order into the universe and then it magically kind of just happens, So there is this visualization piece, which is really important. Mm-hmm. But also, it's not just about pushing away then all of the unpleasant stuff. This is the mistake I thought they didn't go deep enough on The Secret. The human experience, like you said, you're still going to experience anger, you're still going to experience depression or stress or guilt or shame. But what I see a lot of people in the spiritual community is, it's like, I'm high vibe. I'm only high vibe. And it's like this thing of, I only experience positive emotions. I only experience abundance. And it's affirmations all the time. I am healthy. I am inspired. I am abundant. And they repeat it to themselves over and over again. Anyone who's low vibe, what they call low vibe, or any low vibration emotions that come in, it's like, no, I don't want that. That's nothing to do with me. I'm only high vibe, and I keep that, and the unpleasant emotions come in, and it's like, I'll just repeat the mantra. No, I am happy. I am inspired. I'm abundant. But that is why I think it doesn't work for a lot of people, because it isn't just about only generating the positive emotions and shunning the shadow, all the negative stuff. You've also got to take time to feel through these lower vibration emotions when they come in. Otherwise, if you just try and ignore them or push them away, they don't go away. They just build up in the background and lower your vibration. So it's kind of like you're getting the opposite effect. So it's, the way I describe it is, yes, do the active meditations, the visualizations of your ideal day, for example. And also when they come up, take time to do the passive work, which is just to surrender and feel into the guilt and the shame or the anger or the desperation or the desire. You also need to make space for those feelings as well. Otherwise, as I said, if you don't process them, they don't go away. They just back up in your system and they will overload you over time. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there because that's a mistake I often see being made in the more spiritual communities.
I'll make that even more tangible. When you have a contracted state, it's okay. Celebrate it in some way, because it's a highlighter that something in my perception, my filtering of reality, is either attached, that it should or could be some other way, right? Or it could be something about how I'm perceiving myself. Okay. And I'll make it more tangible. Let's say I have a team member that's drama. They're upset, they're frustrated, they're being a certain way. I wish that they would be some other way. Am I pushing away? Am I resistant to how they're showing up? What if how they're showing up is a highlighter? It's just a wake-up call. Or a client or a customer that's upset or unruly, right? They're calling or messaging my team and they're creating chaos or stress, or maybe me personally. Okay. And am I resisting that on the journey? What if that's part and parcel, that we're co-creating as we go along? We're not in a vacuum by ourselves, and that other humans will be involved with that creation. Now, if it's something that's a personal goal for 2026, maybe it's about losing weight and I step on the scale. I went up a pound. I'm supposed to go down a pound. And I'm resisting the data or the feedback that's there. As you go along, there'll be things that don't meet that straight hockey stick, that perception that I'm wanting it to move along. All the while, it's just a highlighter of something that's there along the journey that I get to be with. So rather than resisting it, how can I be in acceptance, which is different than permission? Acceptance is just, okay, it is. So that person said or didn't say something, or didn't do, or didn't rise to the occasion. Or, okay, it went up a pound on the scale. What is that a highlighter around? Where do I get to get curious rather than resisting it? Because for me, it's just feedback along the way of little tweaks and upgrades that get to have a next level along that journey and that path to keep opening and unlocking the next level. If anyone's ever played video games, they don't make it so easy, otherwise it'd be boring. So you get to a certain level and then there's a boss at the end of that level that you get to overcome or find that unlock around. Do I just quit when I meet the first boss? No, if I want to go to level 2, I got to find the way to meet that, to unlock level 2. And then we'll go along that path. There'll be challenges and puzzles and obstacles, and then there'll be a boss at the end of that to unlock level 3. But if I come at it only if it's ever a fight, it's going to feel like a real pain. There's some success on the other side of that feels good. But we play games because they're fun. Even if it's a challenge, we play games because they're fun. And why not life being something that could be a challenge, but could also be fun? Get curious. And these are hard challenges or hard problems. Like I said, people drama or something in my own physical well-being. It's not meeting the way that I want it to go. Okay, let's get curious. What's going on there? Now, with the frameworks part, I want you guys having something you can walk away with. So there's 3 core elements I like to work with when creating a next level. There's commitment. There's the process. The second one is about, what steps, the how-to that I'm walking. And the third one is some accountability. And if I get those elements working together, it can be far more effective than I don't just say yes to, and I want to go to next level. I stay along the path and run it all the way to that finish line, which may take a while. The commitment part, humans are driving all day long with these 2 big levers of pain and pleasure. Pain is like I'm moving away from something that's uncomfortable, or pleasure, I'm moving towards something. And both could be present at the same time. Like I might be moving away from, an uncomfortable past and trying to go towards an ideal future. Okay, both could be present. And that commitment part, I like to break it into 3 elements. There is the pain or the discomfort or negative impacts of what I've had up till now. So if I wake up and look at the bank account, or freaking out at the P&L, or I'm looking at some health marker, or getting negative feedback from my intimate partner, like those are all highlighters. Something's not working, or something I'm seeing is not meeting the reality I want to create. Great. I want to not just play it off and be in high vibe and push it down or push it away or forget that it's there. That's a wake-up call. So I might feel a negative emotion initially, but I want to never forget the wake-up call itself. I don't have to be in that emotion, just recognize like, oh yeah, I got the message on this day at this time. I don't want to forget it. The second element in commitment, after I've gotten the wake-up call, play it out. What if I don't make change? I just let it be, stay where I'm at, don't ever make the change to a next level. Is that really what I want? Is that really going to create the outcomes, the future, the person I get to become? Now with those 2 elements, now I have a little bit of discomfort. That's okay. I'm not trying to be high vibe and peace and joy and enlightenment all the time. It's unrealistic. I didn't come here to have a journey of just white noise. It's full of ups and downs, but I got to wake up from those downs because that's that impulse for change. That third component to commitment is having envisioned a worthwhile future. And if I get all three of those elements working in my commitment, I'll stay in commitment. If ever I'm not 100% committed, it's going from a breeze to a pain. To get back to that commitment of 100%, all right, recognize I had a wake-up call, recognize I don't want it to just stay the same or just quit. I then get to wake into a worthwhile future. Would it be worth it of the result and who I'd become and what impacts positively it would create in my life and others? When it's worthwhile, then I have that commitment locked in. Process is going to be hard because I don't know everyone's process right this moment. We all have very different goals, very different places we want to move. But can I shortcut it by finding someone that's had the result? Shortcutting that path by finding their process? And there could be processes within a larger system. But if I'm not trying to just come up with it on my own, many humans have gone in a path similar to mine. Let's rob and duplicate what they've done. I also want to have within that process a feedback loop to know if it's working. And I want to make sure that I have some elements in there around a time-bound structure. Because if there isn't enough urgency, I'll drag it out. So is it in the next 6 months, the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years? What is that time container that I'm creating or I'm inducing urgency by my own design? Do I want to lose that 10 pounds in the next 60 to 90 days? Set that time container. Then follow your process that you're coming up with, hopefully from others that have gone that path. Then lastly, so we've talked about commitment, process, accountability. For me, finding someone that's been the path, let's shortcut it with a guide, a coach, a consultant, somebody else that's been along that path. Whether it's a Mark, a Kevin, I don't care. If somebody's gotten a result and you want that result, go find somebody that's been that path. Now, a second to that might be, instead of it being free advice, I like to pay, because when I pay attention. I will say yes to a coaching container, a consultant. I'll say yes to like group coaching if I know that not just the guides, but me paying up will have something at stake of me not quitting or not going backwards. Because I don't want to lose out on the money. I want to have some return on that investment. And far better when I pony up and put the money in and say, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. This is where I'm going. I know it can sound self-serving, but I'm speaking from design. Like I did that before I ever got into a place where I might guide. I said yes to many programs, many different consultants, and that made the difference. A third piece to this is getting around a group of others that are going that path, because I might look to somebody far down the road for guidance, but they're farther ahead. I might not relate to them, but others that are alongside me, hand in hand. Now, this could be mastermind groups, it could be a meetup, it could be just other colleagues that we meet regularly that are on that same path, so that I feel like I'm in a container of growth around others that get it. Being in community is far, especially with entrepreneurship, it's far more isolating in this world now. And we need to find community with others that are committed to similar goals or similar outcomes. Otherwise, we feel like on an island in those times that we are in breakdown or suffering. And they can help pull us through. So that's my recipe: commitment, process, accountability. If I got those three things really working, we can go farther faster.
Yeah, I love that. Certainly, I found the same as well. There is something about investing in yourself, and I am talking about money as well here. You know, it is, and often it's when it's. Sometimes you can invest in yourself. Oh, $99 online course or something. There isn't that kind of. It doesn't test you in the same way. In the past, I've invested tens of thousands of pounds in a program, and that is a test for me. That's a test. It's like, are you serious about this? Are you committed to this journey? You know, and at the time when I invested that amount in a year-long program, it kind of cleaned me out completely. But that's how much it tested me. It really was just like, are you all in here? You know, like you say, there's a transformation that happens when you do invest something like that in yourself. It's like, I am worthy of investing in that. Yes, I am really serious about this transformation. I'm going all in, putting all my chips in here. And that just make a difference. And obviously you said about the importance of support and community along the way. In the past, when I worked on my own, I found myself going in circles. It's like trying to climb a mountain with no guide. You will just kind of go nowhere. You don't know where you're going. So it is important to have that on the journey. I think that's probably the reason why most people, circling back to the start, we talked about 80% of New Year's resolutions failing by February. I'm guessing that's probably because they're trying to do it on their own. And of course, what happens in that place is that, I wrote a post on this yesterday, which is you will default back to your own conditioning and your own belief system. So, motivation in January, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. Halfway through January, it's like, oh, well, okay, maybe I'll do 4 days a week. And then by the end of January, it's like, maybe I'll do 3 days a week. By the time you get to February, it's like, well, am I really going to do this? Probably not, Whereas if you had somebody alongside you, calling you out, holding you accountable, like supporting you along the way, or like a community, as you said, the people are going through this at the same time, you're much more likely to follow through, because they are holding you accountable,
Yes.
So I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. I think that a lot of people are missing. There's something else I was going to say, slipped my mind now. But yeah, that's a really important part of it. And like I said on previous pods, it's like if you can, when the challenges come up, because they will, because it's not like when you want to change your life, it magically appears in 6 months' time. That's what I was going to say. Don't attach to, because I've got goals for this year. Some that I can tick off. Yeah, I met that one, met off. Some that I didn't. And that's fine. You kind of commit to the process. You've got support. And maybe there are some goals. You set yourself lofty goals. Maybe you don't quite reach them, revenue targets, whatever it might be. That's fine. They can roll over to the next year. It's not about kind of attaching and then beating yourself up because you haven't quite hit that external target, because the real gold in the journey is the kind of person you become along the way. I know it's a well-known phrase, but it really is, like, because the amount of healing I've had to do on the journey towards that revenue target, if I haven't quite met that revenue target, it doesn't really matter, because I've processed so much of my own limiting beliefs along the way. Because that's what happens when you set yourself a difficult target like that, or to change your life in some way. It doesn't, just land in your lap in 6 months' time. What happens is the universe asks you to face all the stuff that's in the way, all the old trauma, all the old conditioning that is in the way of that new high vibration reality. You've got to clear out all the old stuff. So for me, that is the gold in the journey. All the healing I've been able to do on the way. And if you can get to the point where a challenge comes up, and instead of like backing down and going, oh, maybe this is too difficult, it's not for me. If you can go, oh, fantastic. Here's a challenge. Here's some really unpleasant, painful emotions that I get to sit through with support, process, and it will take me to the next level of my expansion. So if you can look at challenges like that, instead of backing away, moving toward leaning in and going, brilliant. A challenge means that I'm growing. A challenge means I get to process more all this old energy that's in the way, and continue to expand my energetic container. Then you can't lose, because it's literally just like whether you achieve the external target or not, you've been able to heal yourself along the way. And so that's how, in my experience, you can, even when it's difficult, you can enjoy the journey, because it's just like, great, I just continually healing myself, continually processing all this old stuff that wants to come to the surface. So that's what's really helped me anyway, over the last 5 or 6 years.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
Fully agree.
That's it. If you can, it's not saying you always enjoy the present. Like one thing I hear from people is like, the present moment, it's always magnificent. It's always wonderful. Sometimes you hear Eckhart Tolle talk about that, like the present moment, it's always this wonderful place to be. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it sucks being present. Sometimes it's some really painful, difficult emotions. And so it's not about always feeling good. It's about just feeling can you be with what is present right now? Sometimes
Yes.
it is really unpleasant. Sometimes it is wonderful, So that for me is always the most important skill we can learn, I think, is to be with your present moment felt experience. If you can do that, it takes away a lot of the fear and gives you so much confidence if you develop that ability to be with what's happening right now. Well, I've covered a lot of ground there, Kev. I know we could probably talk about this for the rest of the day, but I think we'll leave it there for another pod.
Oh yeah, there's far more in this. But hopefully
there's far more. But anything. Just anything, just a final note for anybody who's there right now. We've covered a lot of ground, I know, but just one thing that somebody who's at the end of 2025, they know they want to change their life in 2026, they're feeling a bit stuck, not sure where to start. Anything you would advise them just to get started? I know you covered a lot of things already, but is there one thing that they could do today just to help them change their life in 2026, whatever that means for them?
I think this is going to be counterintuitive to what many people come to this for. I touched on it a bit, is never waste the pain, the impact of what's showing up till now. Because that is like it's the wake-up call. It's that thing that induces that moment of change. So if you want to change in 2026, I don't want to necessarily just pretend like, oh, well, everything's all good, and then I'm just going to move into 2026. So we're going to manifest things. Like, hold on. Is there something I'm pushing down, not wanting to get present to? And as you just said, not willing to be with what is in the now. So I would get present to it, feel that discomfort, like actually move through it by letting it synthesize. Going, you know what? Yeah, I'm actually not okay with this in my life or this showing up right now. And it's okay to have that. That's like that catalyst state that you're like, actually, yeah, I got to stop and face the music for a minute and realize like there is something here that's a wake-up call. I think instead that it's really easy to gravitate towards, well, something that feels good or something that sounds positive or something that sounds uplifting. And I'm looking for the next inspiration jolt to try to move myself through light and positivity. Meanwhile, there might be something right now that is an impact, negative impact, contracted state, that if I were to actually be with that for a minute, go, you know what? Yeah, I'm sick of this, or enough, no more. Those can be really powerful states. Enough, I think Jim Rohn says this, like enough is a powerful word. It's not that I want to stay in a contracted state, but I got to face the music and go, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Not working or not and it gets to be time. Now, how I shift from there and not make it contracted and, a heavy negative state all the way forward, that's what we talked about today. But I want you to face the music for a minute and go, you know what? I'm sick of it, or enough, no more. Because when I feel that, that's the wake-up call. And maybe not what you want to hear, but the more you feel it, the more you let it well up and move through you, the more we can channel it rather than let it take over you and overwhelm you. Channel it for what comes next. I think of like fire, destructive, right? It can wildfire, destroy homes, right? Explosions, like not great things that fire could be used for. But if I channel it, it can heat homes, cook, combustion engines that move things forward. Like if I channel that uncomfortable state, it can create a lot of good. But it's by using it and moving through it. And how we move through it is we allow ourselves to actually be with it and feel it. Because that's the wake-up call.
Exactly that. And often it does take us to hit a wall to change, doesn't it? I can speak of my own life, actually having to hit mental health issues. A lot of people, it's burnout or overwhelm or whatever it is. But there's a gift in that place, because if you don't hit that wall, most people will go through their whole life in this place of just, general kind of mediocrity or general kind of sense of, yeah, I could be so much more, but I'm comfortable. Is when you're forced to evolve by life, there's a gift in that. All of a sudden, you've got no choice anymore, and you have to make a change. Great way to finish on, Kev. Anywhere you'd like to point people to in terms of social media, etc.?
You can find me on social media. My name, Kevin Schouweiler, or you can go to kevinschouweiler.com. But yeah, mostly on social. You can find me just with my name. Not a lot of us that are named Kevin Schouweiler.
Same with my name as well. That's an advantage. Yeah. But yes, thank you so much, Kev. We'll leave it there today. And as usual, for anybody who's interested in hearing about the work that I do, thebuddhaspot.com. my purpose alignment assessment in there, so you can get a good idea of where you're at right now in terms of your own purpose, in and out of purpose, and what needs to change, or perhaps what you want to work on in 2026. But beautiful. Thank you so much for joining, Kev. Perfect way to bring an end to this year and, step into whatever we want to change in the year ahead. So really appreciate you showing up today, Kev, as usual.
Always, brother. Good to be on again. With that, enjoy.
All right, Kev. Thanks for joining, everyone. Back next week. Bye for now.